Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are.
Welcome, everybody. It is time for the Books That Make You show, and I'm your host, Desiree Duffy. And today we're talking about books that make you blast off into outer space with your favorite Snoodles. We have children's book author, crankiness expert, humorist Stephen Joseph, and he is delivering tongue-twisting laughs with his latest book in the Snoodles saga. It's Snoodles in Space, a Snoodle, the Zoodle Kidoodles, and One Happy Schmoodle. I got it right. That's hard to say. I don't know why, but that's really hard for me to say, Stephen. He is
You got it right.
Yay. He is also an attorney and a negotiator by day. And that means he knows a thing or two about shifting people's points of view so that they can see things in a whole new way. He brings these fresh bursts of perspectives to the world of children's literature that's as entertaining as they are thought-provoking. And Stephen is always a lot of fun to have on the show. This is your fourth appearance, Stephen. Welcome back.
Well, this is my fourth book, so I guess
it makes sense.
You know, like one appearance per book, so that's good.
Exactly. So, okay, give us the rundown. Tell us about the next installment in the Snoodles saga.
Well, this book started. I have my blog, Crankiness blog, and it started out. You know, I get an idea in my head. Basically, it started out as a rocket science Crankiness, where it's like, it's not rocket science. And the only thing I had actually was nursery rhyme. One of those nursery kind of stories. Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And when they had to go, this Humpty Dumpty must have been a very important person because you have all the king's horses and all the king's men trying, probably a prince, So anyway, they go back to the queen and hears the news and she goes, it's not rocket science, it's not brain surgery. And that was kind of like what I was playing with at the time. And I already had my Zoodle Kidoodles book. And all of a sudden I thought about aliens and the point of that is, we're always hearing, we're not producing enough doctors, scientists or whatever. And so I created this planet where the rocket scientists and brain surgeons would poo-poo everybody else, saying, well, what I'm doing is so special and what you're doing is not that great. And it's so intimidating that the planet was left with no more brain surgeons or rocket scientists. So that kind of sets the story with trying to find, and they found two people on Earth who actually would say the same thing and took them for rocket scientists and brain surgeons.
I love it. And I think one of the folks who reviewed your books, it struck me because they commented on how this is such a great book as an introduction for kids to the world of science fiction. And really it is, because it incorporates, like you said, you got the aliens and the rockets and people being jettisoned into outer space. How does that make you feel when you realize that, hey, this might be how kids, little ones, are introduced to a whole genre of science fiction?
Well, that's exciting. Where it's where again it's part of my goal is to make people curious and wonder about things. So just one of the wonderful things I was able to do in this book. I like when both books have kind of parallels. So in the first book, Herbie Snoodleman opens up an art museum. And in this book, Sauer Krudelman opens up a museum for space exploration. So again, and I grew up in New York City, grew up in the Bronx, and it was always great to go. We would go to Museum of Natural History all the time and Hayden Planetarium and just like wonder about things and marvel about things. So give people that experience or just that curiosity. Wow, I'd like to go to a museum and explore and have that creativity kind of blossom. And that this story does that, I would just be so thrilled.
Yeah. And you said the magic word, creativity. Can you talk about how the series, just the creative aspect of it? Because your mind, Stephen, I dare say, might work a little bit differently than a lot of people's. Where do you get those wonderful creative ideas?
Well, I think, well, first, because I negotiate, and having done this for many years, when I first started negotiating, you take a case and you want to know every little thing about the case, and you spend hours and hours and hours memorizing and going over stuff, and to me, it's more like knowing my hooks, knowing things that I will grasp on to use to get where I want to go in the negotiation, my hooks. And the other thing I like doing is cooking. And not cooking like give me a good recipe, cook one of those, oh, I need a good recipe. I like trying to taste and cook and say, needs a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and needs this spice and that spice. And when you have that, you're trying to make something taste exactly right. And that's one of the wonderful things writing a children's book and working with an illustrator very closely is that he will come up with stuff, like he's the other cook in the kitchen, and he comes up with a little stuff, and then you could look at it and you could just say, well, maybe a little bit of touch of this. So that kind of collaboration is wonderful. But again, it comes up having that cooking mindset. What am I trying to cook up, and using that in the framework of like the hooks. What am I going to use? What are the big things to amplify? And so when I'm in negotiate, I want to amplify certain things.
Yeah.
In my position. I don't call it arguments. I say from a negotiation standpoint, arguments take away your power. I want to amplify a point that it's just like it just breathes and it's just there, and you're saying, of course, that's it. And again, getting that message across, like in this book, but in a bizarrely funny way at the same time.
You bring up Andy Case, and he's been on the show too. Maybe we'll have to have you guys come back to talk about Snoodles in space. But you mentioned him in that creative process. Can you talk about that a little bit more, and how teaming up for the first book in the Snoodle saga led to this one?
Well, the funny thing is I wasn't planning on this book, and we were talking about doing, like, I've written other stories, and thank you for like all those pictures.
I love them. So creative, like you said.
Yes,
So
it's
good.
great. So I have, and this is going to be my next adult book, Cranky Superpowers: Life Lessons Learned from the Common Crankosaurus Chronicles. So I have a number of stories that could be converted to a children's story, even though the point is for adults as well. I kept saying I could never do anything better than this book, and then all of a sudden, again, because I'm writing this other thing, all of a sudden ideas kept popping up, and once I got the point of the aliens and abducting. So I actually have, there's a couple things in this story that I took from other blogs I have. So I have Genius Brain Crankosaurus, and I talk about like, this person, instead of like a brain tumor, it's called genius brain. And so that appears in this book, as opposed to like art athlete's foot, like, oh, wow, I have athlete's feet. Wow, isn't that wonderful? So make a joke about that. And then I have this another blog which is called "You Can't Make This Stuff Up, Crankosaurus." And the point about that blog is, we always talk about, something like crazy happening, and you're saying that actually did happen. You say you can't make that stuff up, which happens to me a lot. But actually, I flip it around and say it's the mundane daily routine that you can't make that stuff up. Oh, I woke up, I had my cup of coffee, I went to the work, same stuff, different day, sort of thing, and encouraging people, yes, we need to make stuff up. And in that story, this father husband was abducted by an alien. So and the alien actually, in both the husband and the wife packs stuff for Amazon, and the husband delivers stuff for Amazon. And of course, the person who owns Amazon is in the spaceship looking down at all the employees. And this alien says, well, as you say on your planet, you can't make this stuff up. So again, so that piece gets in there as well, where, the parents in this story both get abducted by the aliens. And of course, the planet is in threat of becoming completely and utterly noodleless, which is a problem since we like our noodles. So.
We can't have a world without noodles. That would just be a travesty. I can't look at your book or think about the title, Snoodles in Space, without evoking Snoodles in Space. Was there any, and there's a good chance that nobody under 45 is going to have any idea why I said it that way. But are you hearkening back in any way to Jim Henson and The Muppet Show? Because that Pigs in Space, that's what I'm alluding to, kind of has a similar goofiness and silliness and name quality. Was there any of that in the inspiration?
No, actually there wasn't. I mean, there's
just me then.
there's Star Trek influences.
Mm-hmm,
so like when Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock are stuck on the planet, or they're stuck somewhere and they can't leave. So that certainly happens all the time. There's a little of the Get Smart, because just going back to 60s, 70s, Mel Brooks comedy. So there's a bit of that with, there was chaos and there was control, so there's a little bit of that. I had, with the drawings, when I talked about with Andy Case, just even going Saturday Night Live with the Coneheads, with Dan Aykroyd with the Coneheads. And so I wanted the aliens to have some sort of like Conehead type quality to them. So that was put in. And also Cloodle the Grand Roodle. What was the movie? The Spy Who Shagged Me, whatever, that guy.
Yeah, Michael Myers.
Mike Myers, yes. So there was that piece. So again, the cooking, like making this, you get all these different little influences, but not the Muppets.
Not the Muppets. It just me. You brought me back to my childhood and the Muppets.
Yes, yes.
But I think the thing there is, yes, this is a kid's book, but adults are going to have a lot of fun with it too. You really have a broad audience in that respect. And in case people are wondering, because the show is both audio and video, this is why you really need to check us out on YouTube, because I am holding up some of the pictures and showing off the wonderful, beautiful art. And I just got to say, too, Stephen, kudos to you and Andy, because this is a long book. There is a lot of art here. It's very much like a graphic novel as well as a children's book. There's really a lot of stuff going on. So people who get this book, you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck, so to speak. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And I was wondering, would you like to read some of it for us?
Sure.
Would you give us an excerpt?
Sure. So, yes, I'd love to read.
Cool. Yeah, there's those cone head types on there. I love them.
Here, I'm starting from here. When they are abducted. You are now on our spaceship, the Zoodle Kidoodle. My name is Evil Kidoodle. My associates here are Voodoo Kidoodle, Doodoo Kidoodle, and Dr. Quack Kidoodle. The reason we have brought you here is that for centuries, the Zoodles had the greatest brain surgeons and rocket scientists in the galaxy. Unfortunately, they were proud and started to poo-poo everyone else. When they looked at anyone else's accomplishments, they would say, it isn't brain surgery, and it isn't rocket science. Soon, everyone became afraid to become brain surgeons or rocket scientists, and now we have none left. What does that have to do with us? The rockets on our spaceship are failing, and we cannot return to Zoodle until they are fixed. We have made many attempts, but we have failed. We have monitored many planets, and we learned that both of you like to poo-poo everyone by saying the same thing about brain surgery and rocket science. So, we determined that you two, just like on our planet centuries ago, possess the knowledge of brain surgery and rocket science. And you can see, if you can see in the picture, they even have a computer to figure this stuff out.
They do. I love it. Well, and that too, we were talking about creativity and the inspiration and going to museums. That's something that just shows how kids can, apply mathematics and graphics. And I'm not sure what the everything is going on there. We got the brain and we got the surgery. So you really are just pulling in so many cool things. Bravo to you for doing that. Now, you've mentioned several times your blog, which is hilarious, and how a lot of the content there that's where it kind of debuts, right? You debut the content there, and then it turns into so much more. And one of the main themes with you, Stephen, is you're also a crankiness expert. Can you talk a little bit about being cranky and maybe why people should, embrace their crankiness?
Well, so I wrote the book, A Grown-Up Guide to Effective Crankiness, the Crankosaurus Method. And I always talk about the common Crankosaurus. Like if you think of the common cold, and it's called the common cold because you get one or two a year. And I say, well, cranky, or Crankosaurus is the name I give it, is that you get 3 or 4 just in the morning alone. So since it's so common, it's not to think like, oh, this is terrible, this is bad. It's just to embrace it. And how do we work with it effectively? And basically, sometimes it's using our voice. Sometimes it's holding back our voice, knowing that I have this Crankosaurus in me. And I always start out where, just if you think about, you go with, let's say, your grandma's house, and she says, "Oh, Stevie, take off your shoes. I have this $20 rug. I don't want to get the rug dirty." And it's a $20 rug. You don't want to get the $20 rug dirty. But what we do is, well, our loved ones were way more valuable than the $20 rug. We put our verbal schmutz or dirt on each other. And again, to be mindful of that. In my blog, I label things. Some could be empowerment, where it's using your voice, and sometimes it's just how to deal with crankiness in an effective way, and that will be labeled crankiness. And sometimes it's just kid stuff, or so whatever. So, but again, it's to embrace it, saying yes, we have it, but what are we going to do with it? So. And even with each other, like I talk about Crankosaurus kryptonite, that we all have our kryptonite, and Crankosaurus doctor, where we have to support each other, so and be empathic and that sort of thing. So again, to not to try to get rid of it, and why I started writing this blog is that my first book was a kid's book, The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the Tyrannid Crankosaurus. And somebody said, I didn't write enough about overcoming crankiness. And right then and there, I said, it's not about overcoming crankiness. It's about embracing it. And once you embrace it, then you could start looking at it and dealing with it in a more effective way.
I love that. Now, you recently were at the DPA Luxe Gift Suite the week of the Oscars, which means that you got a chance to hang out with Oscar nominees before the award show and gifted them copies of the new book. What was that like? And what were what people's reactions? And there was kids there too. It wasn't just adults as far as the nominees. What was it
Yes,
like
there was a bunch of kids. There was the girl who was from the Fablemans. There was some kid named Diesel, which is a cool name, I guess. For
so cool.
My 9 or 10-year-old. There was another kid who was in the movie The Champions that's coming out. So it was really neat to see that there was kids there. I had no expectations of who would show up, and there was people lined out the door to get their gifts. And I was positioned right next to the tequila glass people. That they only had the glass but not the tequila, which is very, I thought that was very smart. So it was fun talking about people were actually asking, what's this book about? And I talked about cars running on noodles and going out to outer space with the prickly peppered purple propulsion powered pickle. Definitely got people interested, and it was great it was a great experience just being there, and some people looked like they were already dressed to go to the Oscars, even though it was like 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday the day before, but they
that's LA.
Yes,
that's LA. It's the fun thing when the East Coasters come to LA. There's always that little bit of, okay, things are a little different out on the West Coast.
Yes. It was definitely an experience. It definitely was West Coast, not East Coast.
Yeah, exactly. What about your favorite character? Especially now that you've got this saga going on, who do you prefer the best? Who's your favorite character?
I don't know. There's so many. I relate to both Herbie Snoodleman and Sour Kroodleman.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if you could see it, but there's a lot of characters to pick from. So it's not like I could just like 2 or 3 and just pick one. There's a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like Sour Kroodleman because he has a deli, which I have like an affinity for. It's just okay. Like here's a guy who he had this big business of Krautmobiles that just tanked, and he he could have just disappeared from the face of this earth and go off in the corner somewhere and become a homeless guy, whatever, start drinking or doing that sort of thing. But he opens up a deli, and he gets his poodle named Schmoodle. So he has someone to feed sauerkraut to, so that's going for him, and it's very popular. And he's still inventing things, and he invents the prickly peppered purple propulsion-powered pickle that if you put in a Snoodle, you could go 10 times faster than the speed of light, go into different galaxies, and start exploring. So I thought, like, wow, that is an impressive guy. Like, he was knocked down, but he got up and kept going. And if you look at the end, when he opens up this is the thing I love about Andy. He does these newspaper clippings that he uses in the book. And it says, like, here, if you look in this page, Sarah Kruleman, 0 to hero. And just even like little things where he's standing up on the top of his museum with Schmoodle, it's just like, proud, look, I've done it. It's just like, people are enjoying this new museum that is pickle perfect. So I guess I would have to say he's my favorite character.
And he definitely is a fun character. They all are. I think you're right. It's really hard to pick just one. When you're an author, it's almost like these are your children, right? You give birth to them, you create them. So
yes.
Probably proud of them all. Okay. So tell people really quick, where can they go to find you, follow you, find not only Snoodles in Space, but your other books as well? Give us all your details.
Well, you could go to my website, and you will be very happy you did, because you'll find a lot of good stuff. It's StephenJosephAuthor.com, www.StephenJosephAuthor.com. And the blog is entertaining. You'll get a lot of good stuff on effective crankiness. So it says, yes, go ahead and be cranky. And we have a lot of fun stories that I take other stories like Cinderella or Wizard of Oz or Mr. Spock being interviewed by Captain Kirk, just so it goes. The Three Little Pigs, Inky, Pinky, and Stinky, so it's so much entertainment there. But it has my other books, The Last Surviving Dinosaur, A Grown-Up Guide to Effective Crankiness, and Snoodles, Kidoodles, Poodles, and lots of noodles.
Stephen Joseph, author of all of those books and a wonderful blog. Very funny man, always. Thank you so much for being on the Books That Make You show today. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. And thank you, everybody, for being with us as well. You can find out more on our website. That's booksthatmakeyou.com. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Follow us in all of those places, as well as on YouTube. If you visit us on YouTube, please be so kind as to ring the bell, subscribe, follow us, leave some comments in the chat, and give us a like or two if you could. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Until next time, all of my bookish buddies, please enjoy all of the books that make you exactly who you are.
The host and executive producer of the Books That Make You show is Desiree Duffy. Sound mastering and engineering by Dave Napox. Social media and content promotion by Siddhi Jahagirdar. Copywriting and editing by Mike Robinson. The Books That Make You show is an award-winning podcast produced by Black Chateau Enterprises.